Hello, my name is Alfred Mattingly, and I'm here to address some questions and concerns you all had about whether diversity training is a good fit for the situation that you all are facing over at AWT Bank. Um, so, first and foremost, first matter of business is this article by Bregman that the management over at the bank kind of sent out as kind of raising kind of a qualitative question about the utility of diversity training. First, let me just say that there is a certain amount of the research and the researchers who kind of question the utility and the importance of diversity training and kind of its relevance in today's world of business and organizations. This is not really a new idea. People have been kind of asking that question for a while. However, there are some concerns with Bregman's approach to this topic that I think kind of warrant some investigation and some discussion. So first of all, when Bregman talks about diversity training versus communication training, which he identifies was a successful intervention for one of his clients, I notice that he really takes kind of an all or nothing approach to this topic. He kind of advocates really just a total abandonment of diversity training in favor for communication training, listing the strengths of communications training, its advantages over diversity training, all of these good things, basically telling you to ditch diversity training entirely and adopt just communication training. This kind of all or nothing approach kind of concerns me, just because this isn't a realistic depiction of what this discussion is. You don't have to completely abandon one for the other. Communication training and diversity training are not some mutually exclusive binary kind of option that you have to choose from. What I would actually propose to do is to combine the strengths of diversity training with the strengths of communication training and combining them together to form a training program that capitalizes on those strengths and utilizes both of them for the best possible success for an organization. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing mutually exclusive kind of choice you have to make. Another concern I have with the Bregman article is that he seems very quick to overgeneralize a lot of diversity training and how it is done and how it's run. He takes the examples that Dobbin, Kalev, and Kelly put forth in their article, saying that, well, this diversity training that focuses on the legality of the topic really do not have good track records of outcomes for organizations who do that. And then he also lists the example of kind of splitting people up into certain identity groups and having them work with that kind of exercise. But he overgeneralizes those things as if those are the only two ways diversity training can ever be done. And that is not true. There's actually a lot of different ways that diversity training can be done. I'll actually highlight a couple of them later on in this talk. But he definitely overgeneralizes and gives really a false perception that that is all diversity training ever is, and that's all it really can be. And that's not true. And you are really limiting yourselves by taking that kind of overgeneralized definition of what diversity training really is. I'm also concerned by his kind of oversimplified idea of what prejudice is. At no point did he really talk about the ideas of unconscious bias or implicit prejudice or prejudice that's unstated but manifests itself non-verbally or behaviorally. There's an entire academic literature and applied literature throughout all of social psychology about how prejudice works, and he doesn't seem to really touch on any of that. And it just struck me as kind of a self-serving depiction of the topic. And finally, at no point in the Bregman article did the author really discuss the potential positive outcomes of diversity. At no point does he say, well, if you foster diversity, if you foster an open workplace that's accepting and tolerant, then look at all the advantages, look at all the strengths, look at all the pros that can come from having a diverse workforce, by having an employee population that collaborates with each other and cooperates with each other and complements each other's unique experiences and cultural backgrounds and ways they can reach out to new people. There's no discussion of any of that. It's diversity in that article is depicted as something you have to do, as a box you have to check off, and something that's really problematic. That simply isn't true. And that really bothered me. I think if you take that kind of attitude towards diversity training, then you're really losing out on a lot of advantages you could secure for yourself. That just isn't a good way to run a business. You want as many advantages as you can have, obviously. So for my personal decision-making process on whether or not diversity training would be good, I would want to hear a little bit more about the details of the struggles that you guys are having. I know you said there's been some incidents on some change processes and some prejudiced behavior or remarks towards certain people groups within AWT Bank. I need to know some more details about that. You know, what are the sensitivities being touched upon? Is it age? Is it race? Is it socioeconomic status? Is it sex? Is it gender? Is it certain positions within the bank? I need to know a little bit more before I really make a definitive answer. And then also I need to know, who are the offended parties? Are they other people within the bank? Is it primarily one department against another department? Is it contractors? Is it, clients or customers? I really need some more details before I say definitively yes or no, this is something you need. So I'm not going to give a definitive answer on that because I need some more information, and that'll guide my thought process a little bit more. However, I want to kind of dispel this idea that diversity training is just something you do when something is wrong. Because that kind of puts in employees' minds that diversity training is just a punishment you get when you've been bad. And that's not it at all. Diversity training can be a really positive thing. It can be a positive opportunity to develop your employees, to develop your workplace, to kind of spur some positive changes in your work environment, to be more open and accepting and welcoming of diverse people. It can be a really positive thing for people's companies. And I want to kind of dispel this idea that, if Al says we need to do diversity training, then it's because we did something bad. That's not true. You may want to do diversity training because you did something really good and you want to capitalize on it. So I really want people to dispel this idea that diversity training is a punishment, because that's not true. To give you kind of an idea of what you would be performing if you do go for diversity training, there's actually, funnily enough, the Harvard Business Review, which published the article the management set out, the Bregman article, much more recently in 2017, published an article titled 2 Types of Diversity Training That Really Work. And those 2 types are goal setting and perspective taking. And so those two practices are actually the ones that will form the basis of this diversity training if you all choose to do it. So what this will look like is that, first of all, the diversity training is going to focus on positive outcomes. It's not going to talk about you did something bad, so now you have to be punished. This is what terrible thing will happen if you screw up again. It's going to focus on what kind of positives and what kind of strengths can come from having diversity in the workplace. Second, I would want the groups of participants to be kind of composed of as many diverse people and people different from each other as possible, because research has just shown that for any kind of training, but diversity training especially, if the groups of participants are diverse, then that makes the exercises much more real and much more applicable, and success rates are much higher and much more long-term. So that would definitely be a priority I would want for diversity training if you choose to do it. Next, talk about the exercises you would do. 1, perspective taking is a very experiential exercise where people take on the identity of someone who is not the same as them, is different from them in some way. This can be a difference in gender identity or race or sexual orientation or age, anything that works. They take that perspective and they write about a situation they might face as that person. And it can be about the challenges they might face to their identifying factor, but it may also be about the strengths and advantages they might have when facing that situation. Again, it doesn't always have to be a negative tone. It can be a very good positive thing for them to take the perspective of someone else and see both the bad and the good that can come of that in a professional experience. Second is the goal setting. Now for goal setting, I really want to encourage creativity in this. What I want you to do is I would have each work unit, each group of people who habitually work together, to develop some kind of concrete, measurable goal for positive diversity. This can be a collaborative project across diverse departments. This can be a new way to reach new diverse clients that you hadn't thought of before. This could be absolutely anything. Anything to celebrate and embrace and utilize diversity in your company. And you need to set those goals. And what is really important for the evaluation part is that you assess the success of those goals and you let people know. You communicate that to them. You say, hey, everybody, that collaboration project you did with Department A and Department B, that was great. It was a success. It made things way more efficient in the workplace. Hey, that initiative that you all made to reach new diverse clients in a new part of our neighborhood, that went over great. We have all kinds of new clients. We're reaching out to new potential employees who are diverse and bring new strengths. That was great. We're going to communicate those positive results to people. And just as importantly, incentivize and reward those efforts. Let them know that, hey, you guys did great. You really took this to heart. Here are the positive things it brought. And for putting your time and investing your resources into it, you guys get to use an extra holiday this quarter, or you guys get to have a potluck dinner at the end of the week, or you guys get to have a workplace outing, or whatever it might be. Reflect on their performance appraisals at the end of your performance quarter or half year. Just say, hey, you did great with this diversity project. We really appreciate that, and that is reflected in your performance evaluation and incentives. We really get in there and show them that this is important, and it's important for their workplace, but it's also important for them as humans. Emphasize that human aspect. And also, just as far as evaluation goes, to see if this kind of diversity training works, be intentional. Talk to them. Have those difficult conversations. Have focus groups and one-on-one interviews, asking them, hey, how has diversity been in the workplace? How has these collaborative efforts been? And being able to invest in the human side of things is really going to make an impression on them, way more than just having a lecture where, hey, you screwed up, this is what could happen next time if you screw up. Embrace the human side, embrace the positivity that diversity can bring, and you're going to have way more success. So yeah, that's that about does it for my overview on this topic. If you have any more questions, any more desire for recommendations, just let me know. Thank you very much.